Hi guys. So, GHB. I'm including in this as well GBL and 1,4-B. Maybe if you know what GHB is, you probably know what GBL is. It's I think it's like slightly more acidic, and it is converted into GHB. So I think, if I remember correctly, it takes a bit longer to kick in. I think GHB takes like 15 to 20 minutes. GBL takes like 20 to 25 minutes, something like that, as long as you're on an empty stomach, which is very important if you're taking any of them. And 1,4-B is it's still available as an industrial grade solvent, because GHB and GBL used to be, maybe in some places still are, available as like fucking car tire cleaners or something. And 1,4-B is still available in that kind of capacity. It's usually a printer cleaner, a fluid for cleaning printers, and essentially it's the same thing. It turns into GHB in your system. So the feeling is similar. It tastes more kind of solventy, if I remember correctly. None of them taste nice either. GHB, I really don't like the taste of it. It's one of those things. It's not a bad taste. It isn't strong. It's not really pungent. It's not like ayahuasca or something. Check out my ayahuasca vid if you haven't already, if you want to hear about how bad that stuff tastes. It's not like that. It shouldn't be a problem. It's just gross. There's just something about it. It's just like, ugh. It's just kind of... Sorry, I'm getting all fucking triggered by the reflections again. I've really got to find some sort of permanent solution to this. Turn this right down. There we go. That's better. It's not. It's just something about it. It tastes sort of salty and a bit like. Look, not that I know what cum tastes like. I don't. But it tastes a bit like cum. And I've never tasted my own cum. Don't be ridiculous. But it kind of tastes like cum, or what I imagine cum would taste like if I had tasted cum, but I haven't. But a bit more like chemically, and it's just like, I don't know. I really don't like it. Some people don't care, but I really don't like the flavour of it. But GBL and 1,4-B aren't really like that. They're like a bit more chemically. Someone described GHB as tasting like ghost cum, and it seems accurate. And you can mix it with stuff and the taste kind of goes away. It's just got a sort of weird aftertaste to it. But anyway, so I first tried it, I guess, like years and years ago. I think got it off the internet or something. Well, yeah, it would have been, because you can't really... I mean, you can get it off... I wouldn't want to buy it off a dealer, to be honest. I think it's quite a dangerous drug in a way, like, because the dosage is so specific, and people... I don't know if you can... If everybody is responsible enough. Like, it's one of those things, I think if it was legal, I think a lot of people would die. I think it's good that it's not very widely available. But anyway, so I tried it. I remember the first time taking it, and the first time I think it was a free sample, so only I had some, and so my girlfriend was just like sober, and I was on GHB, and I took it, and we were just chilling in our room, and I was like, yeah, it's really fucking nice, yeah, and just enjoying it, and just talking rubbish, and I think she was in a bit of a bad mood, because I was on GHB, and she wasn't. I really liked it, so then we did it again. I remember we went out in Bristol, and... like, it was kicking in big time. This was the first time we properly took it, and there were all these girls on a night out, all these like students and shit going to the clubs, and I was just like, fuck, like it was just unbearable how horny I was. Like, I was like, I've got to go home. Like, this is too much. This is just like, I literally can't even. It was like being like a vampire or something. It was just like, this is bad. I have to leave. It's just like so intense. Like I have that feeling to some degree anyway, but this was this was just crazy. Yeah, it was just like it was mad. And it does that. I mean, it just makes you like so horny. It's crazy. It's really, really crazy. It's like you're sort of overwhelmed by it. And and we would just walk around town and like go to convenience stores and buy sweets and energy drinks and like chocolate bars and shit. And it was all a bit fucking dumb, really, but it's quite fun. We just walk around talking shit and like it's weird. I found like it gives you a really good buzz. Like aside from, you know, the horniness aspect I've mentioned, there's also the feeling of like, I guess people describe it as being somewhere between alcohol and MDMA. And I think that's kind of accurate. It's got less of the, at a sensible dose, it's got less of the kind of loss of coordination perhaps that you get from alcohol. You've got a bit more clarity and more euphoria, but it's not, you know, there's something if you're doing MDMA or something like that and you're feeling euphoric, there's a satisfaction in it. Like you feel like, yeah, this is exactly where I want to be. Like this is perfect. I don't want this to change. I always found with alcohol, there's that feeling of like it's never enough. Like you get moments where you're like, oh, I'm perfect level of drunk, or this feels good, and you don't feel this perfect. You think, yeah, this is great, I'm enjoying myself, and then you want to drink more, and it's just never. I don't understand the obsession with alcohol, to be honest. I really don't like it. I used to like it too much, but I didn't even really like it then. I don't know. Yeah. Don't know how to explain it, but I have a really bad association with it. I don't think it's very. I think overall it's a bad drug with a lot of harm potential, and I don't know actually. Yeah, it's too. I have my thoughts on it are too kind of big and varied to like sum up now in a video about something else. I do think it has some good uses and stuff, but yeah, that feeling of alcohol you get with alcohol where it's like never quite enough. You never quite feel satisfied. It's not really, I don't know. I would find GHB was somewhere between the two. It was somewhere between a kind of MDMA feeling and that. Like you feel pretty euphoric and it's good. For me, it never fully kind of. I don't know. There's something missing from it. But it's a nice buzz. You feel like very confident, very keen on everything. Like excited to do things. If you're at home, just, you know, to just like listen to stuff, to watch things, to like do things, to go and buy things, eat stuff, you know, you feel very sort of dopamigenic. So you sort of like want to just do shit, you know, for your reward circuitry. So for us, that was just a lot of like eating fucking sweets and stuff. It obviously there's the sleep consciousness, unconsciousness kind of part. People fall asleep on it pretty easily or pass out, and I've never been unconscious. You can become like unwakeable on it, and I think there's quite a you can't, obviously people can die from it because the thing is it's so small. This is what I was getting at earlier, like the doses are so small, so a little vial of it, a tiny little vial, is one dose, and people are fucking stupid, man. Like it's what I don't like about drug culture, and what makes me, I'm not totally convinced by legalization arguments, because I just have known so many people who are so fucking stupid, including myself to some degree. But to be fair, like I was always pretty aware of the fact when doing drugs, like I didn't want to die, and I rarely pushed things into territory where I could have died. And when I did, I don't think I really could have died. I think probably in my head I thought, oh, maybe I could have died last night. I think I would have had to have been pretty unlucky or pretty like soft, you know, to have died. I think I did things that probably could have killed like an old lady. But a lot of people I've known over the years just have this like fuck it mentality around drugs, and I really don't like it. I think it's fucking childish and stupid, and you should be like aware of what you're doing. And I know a lot of people would just like drink bottles of it and stuff. It's just so easy. Like, for example, I mean, he's not the best example because he's such a crazy guy, but if you watch Sean Atwood's channel, he had a friend who's now dead, rest in peace, called Wild Man, who was like, as the name suggests, basically he was this like huge fat northerner, and just a wild man. He was like really hard and just crazy, and he used to just like do everything, and like he was just he would just fucking take anything basically. And one time there's a funny story, it's worth looking up, he drank a whole bottle of GHB, and he's a big guy though, like really big guy. But yeah, apparently, if I remember correctly, I think he was completely unconscious within like a few minutes, like almost immediately. He was just like basically dead. He survived it, obviously, but he's an unusual case. And I think what happens a lot is people get a few doses and they think it's one, and they're drinking and they just have it. And obviously the alcohol exacerbates it because they're both central nervous system depressants. So that, and they're more than the sum of their parts. If you're combining downers, like people always say, you shouldn't mix uppers and downers. It's actually really the opposite. You shouldn't mix uppers and uppers or downers and downers, because they exacerbate one another and become more than the sum of their parts. So I would never really have like even for example, if I'd been doing coke back in the day and drinking with it, I would never really have a Valium to go to sleep. And that was probably, again, me being a bit over the top, but like, just seems a bad idea to mix two things that are both slowing your heart rate down when you're already knackered and you've been up for days and you're going to go to sleep, you know, like, I don't remember exactly. I think that might have been what happened to Mark Spate's girlfriend. That was so sad, man. That was so fucking sad. That was just terrible. The guy, the presenter from Smart, the kids' TV show, awful story. Absolutely awful. Genuine, I mean, just, yeah, it's tragic. So, yeah, I think a lot of people do that. It becomes, you know, yeah, it's just so easy to do. And well, there's also the whole date rape aspect of it. Obviously, you can like pour it into a drink, although I feel I would notice if someone poured that fucking shit in my drink, to be honest, just because of the taste. But yeah, it has a bad reputation for that reason, and people always look at you funny if you say you're taking it. And it's one of those things, you know, I could take it with like my ex and shit, but I wouldn't want to take that with like a girl I didn't know that well, you know, because like you would have, basically, if you, yeah, like, even if you didn't prior to taking it want to have sex, like you probably would, and it just would be, yeah, I don't know, yeah. I think though, when people use it for date rape, I guess there's the two components. One is it makes people really horny, and two is it makes people like pass out. And I think generally the latter is like what it's used for. But I don't know, the amount you'd have to give someone to make them pass out have to be a very sweet drink they were having, you know, like it would, I can't, it's, to me, it's surprising that people are able to disguise it. I guess if you're hammered and someone and it just tastes weird, you're just like, oh, fuck it. But like, yeah, I've always found that surprising. I don't know how, actually, well, apparently it is very common. Apparently people spiking people with it is very common. Yeah. I heard there's a thing, sorry, I'm going off on so many tangents this video, I'm aware of this, sorry, but I heard there's this thing in Holland now. I was speaking to this Dutch girl and she said that like people, they spike your drink and they don't rape you, they just like spike your drink, and it's a popular thing there to do, and just to like watch you and stuff. Weird, man. Yeah. And again, sorry, another little tangent, but this spiking people with acid fucking joke, as people call it, has to stop. That is terrible, man. Comedians doing that and stuff, awful, absolutely fucking awful. It's one thing to be a degenerate in your own life, but like to promote that as a funny prank when you know that like kids are going to copy it and people are going up in fucking mental wards over that, that's fucking not on, man. It's terrible. You should never ever spike someone. I'm sure you guys will know that anyway, but yeah, so yeah, I worry about it for those reasons. I think like a lot of people would die and mix it with alcohol and pass out and shit, but who knows. Yeah, so yeah, we used to take it and it was fine, really. I mean, if we got like tired, we'd just have energy drinks or whatever. it was always good. There was one pretty chilling incident on it, where we were really fucked, like, and we went to Co-op to get energy drinks because we were like sort of really tired, and they were closing in like a few minutes, and they were closing at like 11 p.m. and it was like 10:56 or something, and I could see it was further down the road, and I could see the lights were on, and I was with my girlfriend at the time, and she was like way more fucked than I was, and she was like walking really slowly, and we needed things, we needed food and energy drinks and like fucking whatever, and she was just taking forever, and I knew we weren't going to make it there on time, so we were at this kebab shop. The kebab shop was open and everything, and I was like, right, T, just wait here, like just stare at the menu, because she was like quite like, I didn't realise how out of it she was, like she was quite fucked. And I was like, I thought she was just struggling to walk around and stuff, I was trying to get her to run, and she just like wouldn't come with me. So I was like, right, I'm going to just run over there really quick. Like I could see it was so near. And I was like, stay here, just sit here on the ledge of this kebab shop and just like read the menu, just don't move, just keep staring at this menu. I was trying to just get to like focus on it, and just so I could just go off really quickly, and she would stay there looking at it. And she was like, okay, fine. Sat there at the kebab shop. I ran off, went to Co-op. I don't remember if I even got anything. Maybe it was closed by the time I got there. Anyway, I was no time whatsoever, like nothing. This was in Bristol, near the fountains, if you know Bristol. And like in the sort of central bit. And I got back, and she was just gone. Like, and I was so near, I hadn't gone far at all, and she was just gone. Like, and I couldn't see, and I went in the kebab shop. I was like, was there a girl here? And they were like, nope. And I was looking around. There was like an alleyway next to the kebab shop. I was running around the alleyway. She wasn't there. After a minute or so, I just started screaming her name, and like at the top of my voice, just like calling out to her. And I like sprinted around the surrounding area. I ran around everywhere, and she was just gone. And I had the feeling at the time, I was like, I'm never going to see her again. Like, I just thought like she's been taken. It's probably a very dramatic conclusion to come to. I understand, like maybe it sounds a bit silly, but in my head I was like, she's been like trafficked or something, because we'd heard a couple of stories of things like that recently at the time, not in Bristol, but just in general. And in my head I was like, she's fucking gone, man. Someone's like fucking pulled up and taken her. She's gone. And I was running around screaming, because it was just so, she just disappeared so quickly. It was though someone had been waiting, like she was just instantly gone. I was barely any time at all. And I was running around the centre like screaming, and then like people there weren't many people out, but there were this fucking students like getting ice cream, and they were like looking at me, and I was just like, Tara, like running around. And I saw a policeman. He was like in his car, and I went over, and I was just like banging on the window, and I was like, please, like, I've lost my girlfriend, help. And he was quite grumpy, but he was, he said, yeah, get in. And we were driving around, and I've been in a few situations like this before, and the police always think you killed her. This is what you should remember. They're always going to think that you've killed her, and that this is part of your fucking, And I think a little part of them wants to believe that, because they're like, hey, I'm onto this guy, and they're like looking at you in the thing, in the mirror, and looking at your facial expressions, like trying to fucking like suss you out and shit. And this is another one of those incidents. Maybe I just have that vibe, but he was looking at me a lot in the thing, and I was just like, I was in fucking despair, man. I was really like, I was like sobbing, and I think the GHB was making it more like intense, but because we were sort of, maybe I was like coming down from it at this point, but I was just like, man, it's hard to explain, because sometimes you get into these situations and you're worried, but you're holding off your worry because you're like, nah, I don't really know anything yet. You know, when you think something bad might be happening, you're worried about someone, or you can't find them, you haven't heard from them all day, but you're not really worried because there's a part of you is like, I will probably hear from them. But this was an occasion where in my mind, like, she was missing, really. Like, I was seriously freaking out. And we were we were driving around everywhere, and I was just like looking out the window and like, yeah, just being like, can we go here, If you know, and he called into his partners and shit on the on his fucking thingy, on his radio, and nothing. And then I heard him, he was like taking other, you know, calls or whatever on the radio with the other police, and one of them was complaining about something, complaining about some girl. And then he got off the thing, and he was like, he was a Welsh guy, and he was like, right, we think we found your girlfriend then. And I was like, really? And he was like, yep, just been sick all over my colleague's car. I was like, oh, nice. And I didn't believe it was her. But I thought, okay, that sounds entirely possible. But to be honest, it seemed too good to be true. I was like, there's no way. Like, how have they? Because I was so worried at that point. The thought that they found her was like, I just thought, how have they found her? Like, because she was just gone, you know. And then we pulled up. We got to their car, and I wasn't relieved until I saw her, you know, because like I thought it could be a mistake. I didn't turn up as some fucking random girl. I don't even like, who the fuck are you? You know, it's not my girlfriend. So yeah, it was her, and she'd been sick all over their car. They weren't happy about it, and then we just went home, and I was like so happy to see her, and wow, we were just, you know, cuddling a lot and shit. I won't get into all that, but it was nice. It was a huge relief. It was very, like, it was extremely emotional. Again, I think the GHB exacerbated that part somewhat, but I felt like a fucking tit for leaving her there in the first place. Yeah. So there was that. And I wrote down some other things as well. Let me just one sec. Part 2. If I wanted to be a real dick, I would fucking split these long videos into lots of videos that would exactly 10 minutes and 1 second. Yeah, so another time, a thing we got into was mixing it with MDMA. Not mixing it with MDMA. I should also say I really don't. I think GHB is a drug people should be very careful with. I'm not like recommending it at all, and it's very. I don't know. To me, it's something that seems like it has the potential to get quite out of control. People can get quite addicted to it. I've heard of people taking it for weird reasons as well. Some people, I think, they just get hooked on it for sleep because it can induce really deep sleep. I have a couple of times on it where I remember sleeping, like just waking up and just being like, wow, that was sleep, you know, like I was fucking out for like 9-10 hours. But usually you wake up midway through the night because you've got like the rebound effect, it's called. And so it doesn't, I'm a bit confused as to how people use it for sleep. It can help you fall asleep. Staying asleep usually was a different matter for me. But I think it has some kind of medical utility in that regard, and even for like alcohol withdrawal and stuff. It definitely has some purposes, some uses, some valid uses. Sorry, I haven't eaten yet today. I'm a little bit slow. Yeah. So we started taking it after MDMA, and that, oh man, that's like crazy. Well, I've talked in the Amphetamines video about how we used to take it with speed, right, for like chemsex and shit, and that's crazy as well. It's fucking crazy, absolutely crazy. And MDMA is similar. I mean, it's not like, for me, MDMA has never been like a horny drug, but it's similarly like crazy. Just the combo is like fucking hell. It feels like you shouldn't be allowed it. It's too good. It's a bit too much, to be honest. Like, it's a bit overwhelming. We started taking it at the end of a night of MDMA, and it's good because you come down, you can come down, and you can like whatever, and you start to it sort of counteracts some of the bad parts of the end, and you don't feel like you're like crash. Not that you crash from MDMA, but you don't get that feeling, that sort of bad feeling you might get at the end of the night, and you feel very euphoric, very very euphoric, and you can sort of eat more easily and stuff, and your body kind of relaxes a bit. So it was really good, but every time we did it, we would get like vicious come downs, or not so much just come downs, but like we had this thing that started around then where, and I think this happens sometimes with just MDMA if you do it too much, because this was towards the end when after we'd already heavily abused MDMA for years, so we didn't do it often, but when we did, we would do it with GHB, and we would just get for the following week insane nausea. Like it was really unpleasant. It would be for about a week straight where every time we ate we would just feel sick, and some people think that's to do with serotonin, some people think that's to do with the effect MDMA has on your gut or whatever, I don't know, but the combination of the two I think is pretty draining for your sort of mind and body. One time we took MDMA and GHB and went to see Animal Collective live. We went to see Animal Collective when they were touring Painting With, which at the time I quite liked. I don't like that album really now. It's got some okay songs, but it's probably their worst album. It's something about it is good, but yeah, anyway. But we went to see them do that live, and they were supported by Girlfriend of the Year. I believe she's from PC Music. I think it was Girlfriend of the Year, yeah. She was surprisingly good. We were dreading it because she's not one of the best ones on PC Music. But she was actually pretty good live, and the sound was good and shit. I have to say, I love Animal Collective. I've seen a lot of videos of them live, and they're very good, but they were awful this night. We saw them in London, I don't remember where, but on that Painting With tour. And they were... I think it was around the time of the Bataclan attacks as well. We used to be very, very, very afraid of terrorists, which is fair enough. That's kind of the whole point of terrorists, isn't it? To make you feel afraid. But we really were like constantly worried about terrorists, even in places where there probably wouldn't be terrorists. Just like out in town in the street. Well, to be fair, that does happen now, doesn't it? Yeah, I feel they've gotten a little bit rubbish at doing terrorism. Some of the spectacle has been lost. I think they've used all their best guys. That's the problem with that strategy. Is you use up all your best guys, and then you're left with these fucking you-know-whats, these fucking low IQ individuals just fucking run into a train station with a knife and don't even manage to kill someone. Anyway, yeah, so we were kind of worrying about that shit, and then the pills kicked in, and Tara was behaving ridiculously. Like people were getting really annoyed because we were in this bit of like, there's the main crowd, and then there's these bit, I don't know, there's like it's like slightly raised, and there's like a kind of barrier around it, and so you're sort of packed into a smaller space within the crowd. And we were there, and like everyone was kind of still. When you go to concerts now, everyone just stands still, and we're always like, well, we don't really go to a lot of them, or we didn't go to a lot of them. When we did, we'd usually be like drunk or on pills or something, and just like like dancing a lot and stuff. And everyone's always standing still. But she was particularly ridiculous this night, like, and she was just like going crazy, like absolutely loving it, and like dancing like mad, and like dancing like kind of like on people and stuff, and people getting really annoyed. I remember there were these girls who were just literally like, they were just like talking about her like literally while it was happening. They were like, I just couldn't do that, I couldn't be like that in front of people, it's so crazy and stuff. She was oblivious, completely oblivious. And we did it there, and we did fucking GHB afterwards, and it was fun. But yeah, one time as well, because we were so excited about this combo, I wanted to like show it to people, and we did it at our place with some friends, and that was a weird night. It was fun at first, and then it just like, I think the GHB was a bit much for them, I guess, because we had a tolerance to it, and they were like really out of it. And I don't think I was the best host. I think I got a bit weird. I was I was very amused by how out of it they were, and in hindsight, it was probably not very pleasant. But they were crazy. Like, one of them was one of them. We had this like little wooden duck toy, not a toy, sorry, ornament. It was grown up. We had this wooden duck ornament on the table, and he was literally like, he was holding it to his ear like a phone, not as a joke. His eyes were closed, and he was like, his eyes were like rolled back into his head. He was literally like as if he was on the phone. And then he would be doing it, and he'd be like and start looking around and shit. And it was like, they both were like out of it. Like, they were pretty much non-verbal and shit. Now, they weren't at first. I think maybe I pushed them to that point more. I wasn't telling them to take more or anything. I think it was some of my behaviour, because for some reason I could become quite intense on this combo. And I was ranting a lot about like quite controversial political stuff, and just going I was just a bit unhinged. And I think it just pushed them further and further into sort of semi-consciousness. And one of them, he did like the funniest thing I've ever seen, and I can't describe it or recreate it. It was just like, we were just chilling, and me and the other guy were looking at him, and then he just like, he sort of like, he was just not doing anything. He was just like, and then he kind of like, he went like took a big breath in. And then out of nowhere, he was just chilling, and he just like, I'll never ever be able to recreate the face he made. I've never seen anything like, I've never seen anyone's like, I can't even remember it really. I just remember it was so fucking funny. Like, at first it wasn't, it was concerning, but he just like was like he made like the most horrified expression. And then I think he started like rubbing his eyes and like grabbing his face or something, and going and just being like, and then like, the way I'm doing it is probably not funny at all, but it was so weird. His face like changed into a different person, and then he just randomly like opened his eyes and looked up and was like, and like remembered where he was. And he kind of kept doing that throughout the whole night. He kept disappearing into these bizarre, like his whole body would contort and his face would go all crazy and shit. And yeah, I was being annoyed. I was trying to like get pictures and shit, which was probably really unpleasant. I was just really wanted to capture it on film. And yeah, but that was mad. Yeah, they were fucked. And so are we, to be fair. But I mean, yeah, it was a pretty intense combo. Yeah. And another time, this was years later, this was in Spain, we were doing 1,4-B, me and my ex, we were doing 1,4-B, and we'd gotten into the habit of doing it quite a lot. We were living in this place called Cabanyal down by the beach in Valencia, and it was like, it's one of those areas where it's a bit, I mean, compared to like London or something, it's fine, but if relative to Valencia, it's quite rough. And people do this pretentious thing where they're like, it's absolutely fine, it's blah, blah, blah. And like, it's not actually, it is actually rougher than the rest of the city centre. And it's not, most of it is not that nice. Some of it is really cool though. There's these old houses, these like old like fishermen's houses, and they're fucking beautiful. A lot of them are really dilapidated, but every house is completely different. And they're all like beautifully designed, but a lot of them are falling apart and stuff, but they still look really cool. So there's certain streets, just walking around the streets there, it's like, they're fucking beautiful. And it's a really interesting area in some ways, but some parts of it are just kind of shitty, to be honest. We were living there, we had a crazy time there. Weird stuff happened, like people trying to fucking break into our house and shit. We've had quite bad luck in that regard. But yeah, we were living there, and we just used to, I think it was a bit, not a great time. I guess it was during kind of lockdown, like not total lockdown, but, you know, somewhat, you know, back where you still had to have masks in shops and shit, and life was a bit weird. And it was during the winter, and we were taking 1,4-B a lot, and and buying chocolate Turon, because in the winter they sell Turon here near Christmas time in Spain. It's like this. It's made of like, I don't even know what it is. It's so nice. It's like a really thick chocolate bar. I can't remember exactly what it's made with, but it's not just chocolate. Sorry, no, a lot of Turon is not chocolate, but they do chocolate Turon. Most Turon, I guess, is made from nuts or something. It's not like nougat. It's very different, but it's that kind of realm of foods. And they do all sorts of, now they do like kind of like trashy modern ones with like Oreos in and shit, but it's like a traditional dessert. And we used to just fucking take loads of 1,4-B, go and buy like chocolate Turon and go home and fucking eat like pigs and just like watch TV and shit. Watch a lot of Greg Wallace, a lot of Eat Well for Less. At that time we were obsessed with Eat Well for Less and Greg Wallace, Inside the Factories. But it was like, Eat Well for Less was actually entertaining. Like, it was actually a funny show. And occasionally it was actually quite unironically good. Like, they would really help people and it was just sort of cool to watch. There's a couple of episodes of it. There's one where there's this old couple. This is one of the later episodes. I think the show is finished now. I think there were some issues with Greg, which doesn't surprise me. Shout out Greg Wallace. Mad respect to old GW. But he, there was one with this old couple where, well, it doesn't matter. I think the guy had diabetes or something, and they really helped them anyway. They really helped them get healthy, and it's actually quite beautiful and inspiring to watch. But yeah, we used to watch, when we didn't have any Eat Well for Less to watch, we would watch Inside the Factories, which is like so boring. Like, it is really, really quite boring. There's some humour to be had from Greg's demeanour in it, because he's really psychotic. He's just like, I'm here in the biscuit factory in Lancashire. And he's like super intense, and he goes and he looks at the machine. He's like, whoa! And it's like, fucking, he's like, sometimes he looks like a scary Cockney gangster in a movie who's about to kill someone, but he's like being sort of pretending to be nice. You know, he's got this really intense vibe in it. And then sometimes just very infantile. He's like, "Wow, the crisps!" And it's too much. But the thing is about that is what is funny about the show. But that's the same in every episode, and you kind of, it's just like, yeah, it's just Greg being fucking ridiculous in the factories. Overall, the show is like mind-numbingly boring. But we used to, for some reason, watch this instead of watching something good or doing something else with our time. We used to just watch Inside the Factories on Vimeo. Inside the Factory, sorry, singular, I think that's the name. We used to watch it on like Vimeo and like Bilibili and shit. Bilibili is a Chinese video streaming thing. You can find a lot of shows on Bilibili actually that you can't get elsewhere. Like, for example, an absolute classic, Ainsley's Caribbean Kitchen. You can get the full series on there, and you can't get it anywhere else. Anyway, yeah. So we used to watch this all the time. Take 1,4-B. And we were watching it one night. Obviously, we'd taken quite a lot because we were watching the Christmas special. It was near Christmas time. It was like, 1 or 2 days before or after Christmas. And we were eating like fucking pigs and just, taking 1,4-B. And then we I guess at some point we just drifted off and fell asleep watching Inside the Factory on Daily Motion, I think it was. And then it must have been a very quiet upload. We had the speakers turned up very loud on the TV because it was obviously a quiet, someone had ripped it and the audio was bad or whatever. And we fell asleep to it. It was a long Christmas special. And then, like, the next thing I remember, we just suddenly woke up and we could just hear, like, this song. It was like, we take care of our own. Bum, 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 bum. We take care. And it was, like, deafening volume. And it was this Bruce Springsteen song. And we just both were like, like, jumped up. Like, what the fuck? It was, like, so loud. And we were honestly, like, terrified because it was just so sudden and loud. And we looked on the screen, and it was like, it was during Biden's presidential run, and it was like something about the Jewish American Association in support of Joe Biden. Like, it was something about them supporting Joe Biden. He's not Jewish, but it was like the Jewish American something or other supporting Joe Biden. And it just had this image on the screen, this really fucking creepy image of Joe Biden, like most images of Joe Biden, to be fair. And these people he was meeting or whatever, and this song, We Take Care of Our Own, which is kind of an odd sentiment. Not in general, but also a bit odd given that Joe Biden is not Jewish. And it was very odd. And yeah, we shat ourselves, and then we were just like, what does it mean? And then we were Googling, like, is Joe Biden Jewish? Is Bruce Springsteen Jewish? Like, what's going on here? And neither of them are. Although there are some conspiracy theories about Bruce Springsteen being Jewish. Same as Bill Gates. A lot of the sort of online anti-Semites really want Bill Gates to be Jewish, but he's not. There's this sort of thing, a conspiracy about how there's like secret Jews everywhere and they pretend not to be Jewish, which is funny because I feel like you would revoke a lot of the benefits of being Jewish if you did that. You know, it's a bit, yeah. Anyway, yeah. So there was that, and it used to make my ears go all weird taking GHB. I don't know if anyone else has had this experience, but I would take it, and I think I got on drugs a lot where my ears start just being like, and like feel all this pressure in them. And I used to get that on tramadol and like opioids and stuff, and I think that is actually like bad. I think that's how you sort of, if you stay in that state for too long, I think you eventually get hearing damage. I don't know, but I know that these drugs can really damage your hearing. I think like Glenn Beck, someone went deaf in one ear from opioids. And I think I used to try and avoid that whooshing feeling, but the more fucked I was, the harder it was to avoid. I could position my sort of jaw and head in a certain way where it stopped, but I had to focus on stopping it. It was quite uncomfortable, and that used to happen a lot. And in general, there was a lot of physical sort of nausea kind of, and just feeling weird feelings in your head, feeling not quite right. It doesn't feel very healthy. It feels a bit weird. In general, that stuff. I haven't taken it for a long time. But yeah, and then part of the reason we stopped initially in Brighton was it was just like really messing up my fucking sexual reward circuitry in a way that I didn't really like. And sort of just becoming like a kind of gay cuck. Not a gay cuck, not two separate things, you know, but just basically just sort of becoming into like anything and everything, and becoming just wanting like to just becoming very I don't know how to explain it, like just odd sexually basically, and just like in ways that didn't feel correct or comfortable. And I know people have this thing, they have the same thing with alcohol, right? Like if you do something on alcohol, people are like, that was your real self coming out. It's like, well then, if when you're hammered, if that's your real self, then you're a fucking wanker, basically. Like if that is your real deep down in your soul, that's who you really are. It's fucking stupid, man. It's a stupid idea. It does change you. It is literally is like changing your fucking chemistry, you know? And yeah, I feel the same way with a lot of these drugs. Like I do actually think drugs can like alter people's sexuality and like kind of and in ways that, I mean, there's nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with being gay, but in ways that are like much worse than that. Like I think people who go down a rabbit hole of stuff like meth and things like that, I think can end up like into like quite paedophilic things and just becoming really like, yeah, nasty. And with stuff like GHB and speed, like I felt like it wasn't really me, to be honest. And like because I'm quite open to, you know, things like that in general. Like I'm quite like open in terms of sexuality. So it's not like, but it was, to me, it was like, I'm not gay really. Like, I'm a little bit gay, obviously, like everyone's a little bit gay, but not really, you know. But it was just everything. I think it was just porn and drugs and stuff. It has to have an effect on you, that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like all these drugs that like interact with your kind of sexuality, and then just constantly looking at videos of people fucking like all the time. I talked about this in another video, but yeah, I think it's bound to have an effect. And I used to look at so much porn, and it's weird when you stop engaging in those things, all that shit just goes away. You know, my sexuality hasn't. It's just much more straightforward. So it's weird, but it's kind of it's sort of, I'm always like, when I'm doing these videos, I'm like, should I go into this? And I'm like, oh, fuck it, yeah, it doesn't really matter. But there's something about it, it's a bit embarrassing, because again, I don't think there's anything wrong with being gay, but like, I think there's something wrong with me being gay, if you know what I mean, because like, I'm not. And the cuckery stuff was fucking weird as well, man. Yeah, I used to get obsessed with that shit. And I used to think I wanted people to like fuck my girlfriend, and thank God we never did, because I did not want that. I mean, Jesus, the pornographic imagining when you're like really horny and on drugs of like doing something gay or like cuckoldry or something is I think very different to how the reality probably is. And she had all this shit as well. She went through all the same shit. She like was obsessed with like me fucking other women and stuff, and I know that would be an extremely painful memory for her, and not horny at all, other than in some fucking weird, twisted, fucking Freudian, deeply buried kind of way that would manifest in fucking all sorts of odd ways. Anyway, yeah, people are weird. Yeah, so that's GHB pretty much. That's all I can remember of it. I'm sure there's a lot more funny stories. I just can't. I've been writing them down as I've remembered them over the last few weeks, and I guess I've come up with like 4. So it's not many. I think only maybe 2 or 3 of those were funny, but yeah, it's an interesting substance. I don't think it's terrible. I had a good amount of fun on it. I'm not interested in drugs like that anymore. I think I'm a bit too focused on self-improvement and things that I can fit into a positive lifestyle, and I'm not sure I can really fit things like that in. And I think they make me a bit like impulsive and weird and dependent, and I just don't really want to get into all that kind of shit again. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting and potentially very enjoyable drug. But again, I would recommend A, not doing it, and B, if people are going to do it, I'd recommend extreme caution, because the dose response is like very steep, and it can get a bit crazy pretty easily. Anyway, cool, I'm fucking toasty. I'll get some water. Later, chaps.